Okay, hi everyone. We are continuing our season of design reviews with hopefully the tail end of talking about image processing and video. So this hasn't been updated. This hasn't been updated since we last looked at this. We agreed on a different name here, right? Right? You remember that, right? Shadi?
It was frame fitting. It was.
Shadi, are you here?
I'm here. You do not hear me?
Now we do.
Okay.
This wasn't updated since our last meeting, right?
You're right. This is now confirmation.
So can we make sure for the next meeting that we have together that we do have this updated, please?
Yes.
So we're not looking at, no, I mean, not, I wasn't saying that particularly to you, Shadi. I was saying that I see we have a geometry and graphics one. So can we make sure that that's updated, please?
Yeah.
Roger. Okay.
It can't really happen now because I'm here. And then I need to go away from this meeting.
Okay,
now.
then let's remove the part of that agenda. No, wait a second. Let's remove the part of the agenda that's already been covered. I don't want to see the stuff that we already went over. Okay, where are we going next here?
We did look at image stitch last time.
We did, it was beautiful. Yes.
If we could start from image key points onward.
Okay. What's the default for image key points at this point?
It's still SIFT in our branch, but it's still SERF, sorry, that we had before. SIFT is a very good possible candidate, but we're not yet switching it or proposing to switch in this branch. We need to run benchmarks to know for sure this has to be the new default.
Okay. How different? I mean, you know, key points are randomly chosen anyway, so to speak, but I mean, how different is what we get for this?
The one thing we do want to work on as a step, maybe even in this version, if we can wrap it up, is to document, first of all, really examine and then document properties of different key points, like which one of them are size invariant or rotation invariant, which one are contrast aware, which ones are detected near boundaries of images, which are not. And if you know that would really be the key for people to know which one would be the right one for them to choose. But you're right, all of them are proposed for different applications. All of them make sense in different scenarios. Just we need to provide properties for each one of them.
So I'm wondering whether it's worth our while, because these are very mysterious, whether we should have method pages that explains properties of those.
Have we done that for the dimension reduction methods?
I think yes. Yeah, UMAP has a method page, for instance.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, you're right. I remember us doing those. Yes, I agree. I think that's highly useful. And don't forget, again, a thing, whenever we do have method pages or other things like that, to have them mentioned up here, right?
Yes.
We know that, yes.
Parenthetical.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't remember whether it's parenthetical or just different font. Okay. All right, let's go on here. That seems fine. I mean, there's no design. I mean, it's great. Okay, image align.
Improvements, which is coming from new key points, as well as whatever was sped up for the purpose of image stitch, nothing documented that you need to look at.
Okay. Animated image can now take a video and it will convert it to an animated thing in an optimized animated thing in a notebook. Is that correct?
Yes. We have a cap on duration. We're choosing by default 12, again, up to 12 frames per second. The default
so if I take
size,
hold on a second, if I were to take from video, what's going on here?
Prototype build has that. Okay, this one.
Also, I'm not sure if the animated image bit is in prototype because it was conflicting with other branches.
Okay, but if I were to take this and I were to say animated image of this, what's it going to do?
You'll get a 5-second animated image back.
And what's that? What's that?
That's a GUI problem. That's something in prototype that I reported yesterday.
Okay, all right, okay, fine. So what is the 5-second image? Is it the beginning of it? What is it?
Currently, it's the beginning of it. I agree, it's not the most useful thing for video, but you could do something like animated image of snippets video of that video to get potentially something more useful.
But I mean, to me, just showing the beginning without telling anybody what's happening is pretty weird. You see what I'm saying? I mean, shouldn't we give a message that says the video is longer, we're just showing the first 5 seconds or 12 seconds or whatever it is?
I like that. Yep.
Okay. All right, use snippets video for a summary or something like this.
Yes.
But now does snippets video return something by default that animated image can eat?
Yes.
It does? Okay. It's the right duration.
No, that's also a longer duration. The default is 30, I think minimum of duration of the video and 30 seconds.
All right,
so still it would be long.
So we're going to waste a bunch of time snippifying a big video and then animated image is going to throw it away. That doesn't seem to me to make a lot of sense.
However, you can specify the duration in
I know
snippets
that,
video, but
you
that's
wouldn't
not
know
the default. Yeah.
You wouldn't know to do that. I wonder if animated image should by default make a brief snippets video, which would be, how is animated image fast anyway, or is it slow anyway?
So animated image itself is very fast. What will be the bottleneck will be extracting the frames from the video.
I understand, but if it were just chopping off the first 5 seconds or something, is that fast or is that not fast?
I think
it's not particularly fast.
It took a few seconds for me for the examples I was
so then what I would like to suggest is that the default, if you specify nothing else, is that it does some kind of short snippets video.
A 5-second snippets video. I think that would be more useful. Carlo?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And I think it should probably generate a message saying it's doing that. So people don't think they got an animated image of the whole thing and then complain.
Could it show up in progress indicator and not be an actual message?
That would be fine. That's a decent idea.
We don't have guarantees that the progress indicator will show up if the evaluation is less than 2 seconds, though.
Okay, but we'll know whether it's going to be less than 2 seconds. Here, I bet it isn't going to be. To make a snippets video, I bet cannot be done in less than a few seconds.
If the original video is long and large, yes, I think so too.
Right, if the original video is very tiny, then we don't have a problem. It just is gulped by animated image and all is good. Right?
I think so. Let us experiment with that.
Okay, all right, okay, fine. Sounds good. Color separate.
It's a very small update. We used to accept short names for color channels like R, G, and B, and a lot of those short names conflicted. We're now adding a new version, which is accepting things like string red, green, blue in the tentative tables down below.
Whatever, that's fine. I'm a little confused by one thing. I mean, if you're doing remote sensing, for example, then don't you have named color bands? And in an image right now, do we have the idea of an association of channels?
We don't, but we talked about it. And I think once we have that, that would be a perfect way of separating channels.
Okay, fine.
And
so
maybe
in other words,
even now, one other addition we should do to color separate is to accept indices, color separate 1, 2, 3.
Why not?
Yeah, we don't have it. Yep.
Well, we should do that. Yeah. Okay, white point option for color convert. Sounds reasonable.
The other two are also just documentation update, actually.
Okay, now support color as an input. Oh, remove alpha channel for a single color swatch. Yeah, that'll be useful. Correct? That's what you're talking about, right?
For a single color directive, like RGB color 100.
Well, I mean, so I can say set alpha channel of red, comma 0.5.
Correct.
Good.
And then remove alpha channel of that. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds useful. Now it sets the lighting option. Show image 3D. I understand. Image 3D would accept the lighting option.
Unfortunately not. We have some coordinate differences between graphics 3D and image 3D that had to be sorted out for lighting to work. And so as an easier workaround for now that is manageable for 13, we are making this addition in show so that show of image 3D can take lighting. And then we're going to continue looking at adding lighting and other graphics 3D options to image 3D.
But so the issue is that the coordinate system of image 3D is not the same as the coordinate system for lighting?
Yes.
Look, that problem is going to be insoluble, I think. I don't think we're going to want to have lighting referencing. I think it's going to be that those kinds of options will be the equivalent of saying graphics 3D of image 3D and then doing lighting, which is effectively what you're doing with show, I think.
Yes. Yes, that show returns graphics 3D.
Nobody's ever going to figure out that you can say show of image 3D to get lighting. Nobody will ever figure it out.
We could implement graphics 3D of image 3D as well, if you think that's easier. Okay.
We should, but also we should make sure it's properly documented in image 3D.
Yes.
And then I see. So then the idea is to later on do a coordinate system switcheroo like we do for example, dates in list plot and things, to take the coordinate system of lighting and interpret it for the image 3D coordinate system. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have an opinion about how horrifying that is or isn't. Okay, text recognize. What does that let us do?
Sorry, that's the same old text recognize, a library upgrade, same
I know,
functionality.
But what's the point?
Nothing specifically is needed. Design review.
Yeah. I understand that, but I'm asking, what does it achieve?
Most of the time it's, I don't remember exactly what we fixed in that, but most of the time it is for us to stay up to date with libraries so that the upgrade time is not horrifying, and then bug fixes.
All right, let's move on. Okay, file format properties. Is this a new thing?
Yes.
Why isn't it file format data? Why isn't this file format data?
We
Seems
discussed
just
it.
obviously wrong to me.
No strong opinion there. This was
I think it's obviously wrong.
LCC meetings.
Why was it not concluded that it should be file format data? Oh, wait a minute. Set file format properties. Wait a minute. Set file format properties. Okay, so if I just say file format properties.
Oh, this was also conflicting in prototype builds.
Okay, what build can I look at it in?
This is not in any build.
Can somebody show it to me on their screen?
Sure, there is, however, examples in the page too, if you want to scroll down.
I'll just look there. Okay. And this is now setting a MIME type. Is that correct?
No, this one is setting it. Well, you could set MIME types as well, but mostly I think the one thing that would be really commonly used by this function is setting the default import element rather than anything else.
Oh, this is a mess. This is a mess. This is horrifying. Look, somebody's going to set this in a 1,000 input notebook, and then they're going to forget, and it's going to do one thing, and then they're going to run it again. It's going to do a different thing, and then they're going to complain. Is this really a good idea?
Oh, well.
I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, look, I think set options isn't the greatest of ideas, and I never use it. because too often it just messes everything up.
I use set options, but not very often.
Okay. Who was involved in the design review of this? They're not here, are they?
Sean Charon and Itai.
Okay.
You want me to find them?
I think we need to find them.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I actually don't disagree with you on this set file format properties. I don't think there is. We do have the element to specify an import if we really want to change or use a different import element.
I think these are both crazy. File name to format list. What's this? Okay, that's. What is the point of this? Look, the only thing that makes sense to me is being able to set MIME types somehow, and that's only relevant for the cloud. Okay, let's get the relevant people here.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm looking at these other ones here.
I thought you guys had already discussed this in LCC. I think you were in LCC.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I think it's wrong. I mean, that's what happens. You know, we discuss these things, then eventually we implement them, and then we look at them again. And, you know, usually we get it right. I don't know what the point was here. Okay. What has happened with PDF? That was working very beautifully.
PDF, the only element that wasn't updated in the previous cycle was vector graphics. Now we're adding that. Quality-wise, we are really close to what we had in legacy implementation. There are some differences, but overall, the old code was failing for half of the samples of PDF because it wasn't up to date to the spec. And now we're succeeding for all of those.
Right, so we can import, but what aspect of vector graphics were we not able to do before? I don't understand. I mean, right now, we're able to do the rather amazing thing of take some random paper from archive or something in PDF and import it, right?
Yeah, and the import works, the elements that beautifully work are raster images or plain text. With vector graphics, we used to still fail for half of the PDFs because we were relying on that old code. Now we are porting vector graphics to the new code. There are, and for most part, we're now going to develop beyond the what we supported before. But for what is coming into 13, we're going to be on par with the old, with the addition that we're not going to fail for the half. Yeah. And we are prepped to continue with that development.
So what this
and our graphics language, vector graphics language, has evolved to basically cover, I think, all the remaining elements, including gradients and patterns and stuff.
Cool. Yes. So what's a good example of where I can get, you know, a PDF from the wild? How do I get a single
archive?
I know, but those are mostly huge. Or whatever. I wanted to get something where I can pull out a here. Well, let's go. Let's see. Wow, the second paper here on the list for the new papers is a topic that I worked on at one point. Okay, well, let's see. Let's see whether they have an image. Okay, let's look on page 3. Let's see whether we can import that puppy. Okay, so what we do is presumably we say,
the page graphics that is being added now is giving you whole pages as vector graphics. It's not giving you just individual shapes that you see there.
I understand that. I understand that. I want to see what it takes. Okay, so if I say import of, so now I'm saying import of this, right?
Yes.
Okay, now comma, and then
Page
how do I get?
graphics.
Okay, how do I get a particular page?
Page graphics, comma 3. Or 4, sorry, if that's the page 4.
Well, we're about to get the wrong page. This is fantastic. Okay, let's go to page 4. Okay, I just want to see what's involved in pulling out that image. Oh, where is it? Where is it?
Yep, that one failed.
Well, at least my bug divining skills are still intact. How could I have picked one that failed? Why do you think it failed?
We have a list of elements that are still on the list to implement, and that's one of them. It's probably some kind of form or something weird in the back end.
Okay, well, just make sure you get a copy of this document so you know what to do here.
We have thousands of examples, but I'll take this one too.
Okay. Oh, look, that's probably our colors. Okay, so this is page 6. Let's see, that's almost certainly a graphic made by us. So let's see if we can import our own graphics.
Okay, we now have Sean Sheeran and Itai.
Okay.
If it were embedded as some kind of image, then it probably would have been pulled, but it must be some form or other specific PDF directive that we just haven't gotten to yet, but it's happening soon.
But if I look at this other stuff here, what is this? I mean, what is it? If I looked under the hood, what is that? If I say input form of this, what is this?
Most of them are field curves, right? If you click to get to one of those characters.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. What just happened here?
You just moved one vertex of that field graphics or field curve.
You're editing a spline, Stephen.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually funny.
That's actually remarkable that that's possible. Okay. Well, that's a good way. Actually, it's kind of a good indicator for maybe we should use that in documents as a way to highlight. Okay, a horned figure. Okay. All right. Listen, we need to talk about. We were talking about
File format properties.
Yes, and I'm actually just since we're on a roll here, we're almost done with this. I want to hear about mbox. Do we actually get the thread analysis for mbox?
Yes, you'll have to go to this. Not this. That's a get function page. Go to the O tab.
Format page.
Anybody see it?
Format.
Where is it?
5, 6 down.
It's about
No,
more down.
More. There.
There we go. Okay. Okay, so how much of threading? I mean, by the way, really, we actually have this now.
Yes.
Wow. Has somebody run it on any of my mail?
Not yet.
But we have a check-in with Roger today at 2, so I will talk to him.
Oh, this would be fantastic. I mean, my mail is, I just got one tool that I've been asking for 5 years that just got developed. That's really, really nice. And this would be magnificent to have this threading analysis. Okay. Very nice. What is the thread graph?
Graph that connects the messages who replied to which message is a reply.
Isn't it?
No, the thread graph is not. The reference.
Well, I understand, but yeah, go ahead. Reference message ID graph. Okay. I think that it's going to need, right? Because let's see, how does it work? Any given message, right? Okay. In a sense, the atoms of mail are senders and receivers. Or I guess you're the only receiver of the mail thread. So it is people on the 2 line or the CC line or whatever, right? So what is happening is a mail thread is effectively every mail message is a hyperedge in a hypergraph whose nodes are senders and receiver are senders or people on the to or the CC line. Does that make sense?
The way we have structured the graph is that every node is just a message ID. And then for that message ID, you can get all of that information. Who sent it, who received it.
I understand. But ultimately, and this is probably something for the function repository for now, ultimately, you understand that the dual is the representation of, right? So what the knitting of the threading of a thread happens because there is a common member.
No, I mean, it depends. I mean, there are multiple different definitions, and I don't know which you used, but basically the simplest is that there's an in reply to, and so you have a starting thread and all the ones point backwards via an in reply to header.
But in particular, there's a message ID that they all contain in the in reply to.
Well, transitively.
Well, they all contain it in the references. The references contain the list of every message along the thread. The in reply to is what it directly responds to.
Are there examples in here?
No.
However, this is in prototype build. So at least with the example data file we have in the layout, you can try some of these.
Okay. Well, this is an exciting thing to try for me. I've been wanting something like this for only 20 years. And I'm trying to remember what the exact use cases are supposed to be. I mean, the main issue is...
I remember it. It was who hasn't responded to my email.
Well, that one we just have been working on. We just finally have some results for that. But I don't know whether they use this or use something different.
Not this. This has been added to prototype builds just a week ago.
Okay, well, show it to Roger. I'd love to see it operating on my stuff.
We did some when we did graphs and networks. Like we had a collection of emails on Enron.
I know the Enron corpus.
Yeah.
Corporate corpus of Enron.
Right. But I've seen other things too.
Long after everybody has forgotten about Enron as a company, its email corpus from the litigation around it will still be out there.
Yeah, right.
It's
But I've seen other analysis too, which sort of indicates what is the informal leadership structure of a company as opposed to the formal leadership structure.
Right. And the only one we know about is Enron because that's the only one where there's a corpus of emails. Okay. Well, I'd love to see an example of this, but there isn't one that you can. I think I have to play with this. Okay, but you're fairly confident.
There's a pretty small mbox in example data. If you have a recent prototype, you could give it a try.
Okay. All right. Where is that now?
Scroll down.
Example data. I mean, or another notebook, whatever.
Here.
I would use conv.mbox, CONV.
Not what I meant.
The next one is conv mbox.
Mm-hmm.
That's only 13 messages.
It'll be a small graph, which is digestible for, a small example.
Okay, so then what I say is thread graph of this. Okay, does this take graph options or not?
No.
Okay.
And those are the message IDs.
Okay. All right. And so now, if I want to say, okay, so let's say I say thread from list. Let's say I want those message IDs to be the to be the from lists from each of those. right? Do you understand what I'm asking? Let's say
You
I
have
want
to
to
thread that with the thread message ID list.
Okay. So but there are many more things there than there were here. I'm trying to get it so that
No.
this graph
I think they are the
is
same,
labeled.
just that they look longer. It seems longer because the IDs are longer.
No, you've deduplicated the senders in the thread from list, right? There are only
That seems
two.
wrong to me. We should fix that.
Yeah.
Okay, so just so I understand, I mean, the end result here is that I want to annotate that graph with the from lists. With the are the sender lists? Or what are these?
Well, the easiest thing to do is just do a replacement from message ID to from list, just using normal import elements.
Okay, so hold on. So you're saying I can do this and just say from list here.
Wrap that in a, well, do a from, not from list.
Okay, so that's every message.
So you could wrap that in a double list and also ask for message ID. And that'll give you your mapping.
It has to be a double list.
Why?
Because
Otherwise,
this is the first element specification. Everything after it would be a sub-element that goes to all elements.
Okay, so now I can thread this.
There's
How do you
one
say?
other thing that I added for convenience that you could try.
Well, let's just try this. Okay, so I've threaded that. What? Oh, now I have to do,
Well, maybe thread rule
rule
instead of.
triplet.
yeah, of that thing.
yep.
Okay. Okay,
Or
now I'm
if
going to
in
say,
thread instead of a comma, just do rule. Right?
no, I can't do that.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
Yeah, I can't do that because the import thing only does
No,
that.
I misread.
Okay, so now here, I can say instead of vertex automatic, I can say use line 14. Fancy that. Great.
And it also works great to add tooltips with like body previews and things.
Okay. Well, I hope there'll be good examples of this. And I think you should get some function repository things that do non-trivial, that do useful things with email.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay? I mean, this is very, very helpful. If this works on an industrial scale mbox, this is of high interest. Good. I'm glad we managed to get this finally. I mean, let's see. The quoted content. Okay, we have the new body content. That's been working for a while, right?
Yep.
The new body and quoted, yes.
So, for example, my meta searcher, I don't think is using that right now. And one of the things that's very frustrating is I do a search for something and I end up getting, let's say there's a thread originally about, data about rhinoceroses for Wolfram Alpha. And then there are 17 replies, which all quote the original message, right? Then I've got, copy of that original message in my search, in the results from my search system. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Whereas new body content should allow me to only get, the thing that will be good is, and this is something you could mention to Roger.
Yeah, I am.
Is when we make the index, only do the new body content. And it's probably a good idea. I'm not completely certain. I have to think it through. So in other words, if the first message mentioned rhinoceros, I'm not even sure. I mean, it would be very nice to have some kind of button that gives it that goes down to just
So if you just take quoted content, you run the risk of losing data, but with new body content, you're safe because everything is basically new body content. Worst case scenario, they get rid of the caret at the beginning of the line and you just get more things than you needed.
But... No, that's no good. What I thought new body content was things that were not quoted in replies.
Yes, that's what it is. But the user can ruin the email pretty easily. Mail servers can ruin emails pretty easily. But in this case, you're just going to get extra lines. Maybe most of the time, you're just going to get the stuff that's new. 90+% of the time.
Fine. Bob on our live stream is saying, doesn't everybody use WhatsApp and Snapchat these days? No. Not me for sure.
No.
And there's even younger people on this call who are also responding no. Yeah. Despite the fact that people own WhatsApp and Snapchat, whereas email is one of those things like the web. So who wants anybody to use that? Of course, it's different in other countries. In some countries, there was a dominant owner of the whole email infrastructure. Different story. Okay. Let's go back to file properties.
Actually funny how some companies decide, like for instance, Ericsson disallows Zoom completely because of security concerns. It's absolutely stopped and blocked.
Okay.
Whereas they use WhatsApp.
Well, it depends what business they think they're in.
Yeah. It's just, yeah.
All right. File format properties. Can somebody remind me why this exists and what the point is?
So the primary motivation in the beginning was that we wanted to access options for formats in the system. Right now, there's no way to do that, really, even internally. There's no way to really generate a list of what options are supported in each format. Because
that's the problem. Well, hold on. Here's the big problem. This is not like options that are tied to a symbol. This is,
I know, they're tied to a format.
Yeah. So it's not options in that sense.
Okay, but one of the things that I've been commenting on is that there are things like the list of musical instruments supported by SoundNote that should just become data repository entries. In other words,
this isn't data repository, right? Because you might want to manipulate this.
In what way? How can you manipulate
it? Using set file format properties.
Okay, and what can you really do with that?
Change the default option.
Yeah, I know. I think that's absolutely horrifying. I think it's just a formula for getting horrendous systematic bugs. I mean, have you ever actually wanted to do that?
I think
users have asked for it.
I think setting options would be useful. Yes. Earlier I said setting elements or default elements might be useful, but not so much. But really setting options is useful.
And also tying,
is it
extensions
really?
and MIME types.
Yeah. I think if you want to like take video formats, if you always want to encode into using a specific codec, then you just set options and you're good for that session rather than having to repeat it every time in every export call.
Yeah, until you forget it the next session where you only take that one line and then you've got the wrong codec.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's look at these designs. Okay, so this is an informational thing.
Right, and also don't forget that users can add their own file formats. So
How?
Using the documented method to add their own format,
which is only partly documented, right? It's a register file format or something.
Yep, register import and register export. And this stuff that I'm working on is supposed to be a step towards polishing that up and delivering it as more of a system thing.
Right, but I mean, when
which
that
we
happens,
do need more of these.
I understand, so that you can
extension
Right.
frameworks.
I mean, that will allow us to have things in packlets. For example, to have a packlet add a file format.
Right. But if you're a power user that's trying to extend the system, this is all the kind of metadata that you really need access to.
Yeah.
And I know, many power users that are already trying to do this kind of thing and have hacky workarounds for it.
All right. So set file format properties.
Well, here's a question for both of you, okay? Should it be a system property or not? System, symbol or not? If it's a user extension thing, sort of, it doesn't have to be a system symbol.
Well, register import isn't what context is it in?
Import export.
Random. Okay. I mean, it is an interesting general policy question. Okay. First question is, does it do any harm to have let's say register import, or presumably register file format, which is, if we're going with this file format, motif, Sean, I would assume that will become, when it is systemized, it will become register file format. Is that true or not?
No, because the import and export registration looks pretty different.
I would say we should look at it. I wouldn't be so confident. Maybe we can squeeze them into one, but Sean is right. The amount of stuff, the type of stuff you specify for one is really different from the other.
Their options are completely different. Their specifications are completely different.
Okay, well, isn't it kind of weird that we have one thing called file format properties?
Well, there's also kind of these are generic things to the file format that don't necessarily apply to import nor export, specifically like MIME types, right? There's kind of this big overarching category, which is a file format, and there's specific things that are to the file format. And this is related to the function file format. And a lot of the work that I'm doing in building these things is integrating them inside the system so that file format and import and export are sharing more of the same stuff.
Okay. Do we know a user example now? I mean, I think the blockchain folk have used some of this register import business. Is that true, or what's it been used for so far?
I could send you a few Stack Exchange links.
Okay, but roughly what kind of formats? What do they do roughly? I mean, are these image formats, video formats?
I'm not sure.
Blockchain. Okay, all right, fine. Well, maybe we can put these things in as experimental functions. I'm not convinced. These file format properties things.
The other thing I was thinking of, if we want to sort of mull it over one more round, it could go in the same context as register import and register export is. Because I think I'm not sure where they're ultimately going to live, but it's the same kind of thing in my mind.
Give a list of file formats corresponding to each file extension. What is that doing? Why isn't that just in file format properties? I don't understand that.
It's the inverse. Right, file format properties, you say what extensions belong to the format CSV. With the other one, you say, if I have a file named, blah, which format would that be interpreted as?
If I have a file named blah, I thought we already had a file format function that does that.
That's for a file that actually exists. This is a string operation that tells you how it's systematically mapped in the system. And there's some overlap there. File format has all kinds of heuristics, magic numbers, etc.
Okay, so file format, you've got a concrete file.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you can test if it's any of it, either it gives its best guess, or you can ask, is it one of these specific formats? Whereas, file names to format list would be, star.csv, or a better example, star.cdf, right?
Yeah.
What does that, what will that be imported as? And it gives you sort of all of them, right? That's.
And then if you go set file format properties, you can make CDF map to whatever you want it to. If you actually wanted it to be, NASA CDF, then you can make it do that then.
MIME type to format list. How do you specify MIME type? Just with its file extension?
No, it's
No, string probably, right?
It's a string image backed image slash JPEG application
Oh,
slash.
okay. Okay. Like the usual way MIME types is
Yes.
specified. Okay.
And we probably have one of the best systematic mappings in terms of our formats out there, because we really scrubbed all of the popular lists and fixed all of their mistakes.
Okay, question. Why is there not a MIME type interpreter? Interpreter of quotes MIME type.
There is.
Oh, well, that's nice. That will return the entity for that MIME type. Is that correct? For that file format?
Yeah, and they have it special to do some cloud things, so it's not going to return the exact same things as our system would.
Whoa. So if I say interpreter of MIME type string here, okay, and then I say CDF, let's say. What the heck is that doing?
Well, that's giving you the canonical string. Right.
But what I would have wanted was and then can I go entity of, what do I do to get the actual entity associated with this? That's not good. How do I do this?
Well, I mean, there were presumably other MIME type interpreters there, so I think you just chose not the one you actually wanted.
Okay. I don't see anything else there.
Oh, I thought there would have been one for. Okay, I was mistaken. I would have thought that there would have been like a MIME type.
Okay, so somebody's got to unscramble this, right? So it might be MIME type, purely just MIME type, as opposed to MIME type string, perhaps.
I can report that.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back through this again. Okay. So you're proposing these functions that basically take MIME type. Is it just a MIME type, or is it a name file? No, I see. It's a MIME type string.
Right, MIME types are used usually in like HTTP responses to say this payload is this file format.
Right, or on an email or something like that.
Yep. Exactly.
So what this returns as its format list result is a bunch of strings. Is that true? Not entities, just strings.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Roger, what do you think? I mean, maybe these should just be experimental functions in the system for right now. I'm not a big fan of putting them in this other context.
Fine, that's okay. I want to, what I think, and we need some other discussion about that, because I want to sort of add, I have a whole slew of sort of advanced user extension frameworks, which are for open source projects, all kinds of extension projects to our system. And this is one of these. This is an old one that we're just enhancing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is where all those guys live. I hadn't intended for them generally to be system functions, but
right.
I mean, it's okay. I think experimental is okay. It's not the end of the world.
All right, fine. Let's do it. Okay, we had one completely off-topic question, which Roger might know the answer to, about copula distributions. Find copula parameters. This is absolutely not the topic of this meeting, but what is the answer to whether we have a thing for find copula parameters? Why isn't that find? Well, I don't understand.
That's estimated distribution. It works. So a copula distribution is what we call a derived distribution. It uses it's a distribution that's a function of other distributions.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely identify, estimate those parameters. So estimated distribution will.
Well, very good. Okay, so person whose name looks to be in a character set I do not recognize. I'm not thinking it might be. See, now this is where we also get to use technology. Let's just see. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Now we say character name. Ty. Okay.
Oh my God.
There. All right. Well, anyway, so the answer
is it estimated distribution and fine distribution parameters. Those are two interfaces to the same functionality, basically. One gives the full object back and the other one gives the parameters back.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. I think we just spent time here. What's that?
We still have two things from the video section.
Oh no! Oh no!
I
well,
think
and there's one more thing.
Oh no!
There's one more thing and one more thing. All right. Well,
I think what we thank you. I think what we expected to be a longer discussion might actually not be very long. If you want to open Graphics Tour video and look at some of the examples that are there.
There's no way we're going to get Graphics Tour.
Okay, but what you can do at the top is one very quick thing at the top, though.
Yes.
Which is playback settings. I don't think is going to be super controversial. That's exactly what you asked for, Stephen. That the video object should know its state. And that is the state.
Question, how does that relate to how Animate knows its state?
It will be the same. It needs to be saved in the input form, right? So that will be the way to save it in the input form.
No, but hold on a second. Doesn't Animate have a way? Okay, I thought Animate had a way to save its state as well. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me just look it up. But I mean, to save anything, it needs to be stored somewhere.
Of course. Animation running. So, okay, so what determines, if I store an animation in a file, what determines whether its slider will be at the origin or not?
So that seems to be, it produces a manipulate, right? And the manipulate has a way of storing the starting value for that parameter. So you have, instead of parameter min max, you have list of list parameter comma starting point comma min comma max.
Wait. So what's the basic option name for manipulate that does
No, this is not an option. This is the second argument to manipulate.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay, right. I know that. That's the initial setting.
But then it can store the state. That's what
it does store the state. It does store it. It stores it, but it stores it associated with the dynamic variable. But how does Animate do that? Because Animate doesn't have an animator. Doesn't have that, does it?
Animate is just a manipulate, right?
Okay, somebody's got to report these bugs. This is showing up all the time.
If you evaluate the first one, move this slider, and then look at the input form, you'll see how that is a manipulate that uses the initial setting to preserve the state.
Okay, fine. So that's how it's preserving the state.
Yeah.
And is there anything else, like an animated image? How does it preserve the state?
I am not sure that does, but if it would be exactly the same thing.
Or dynamic geographics?
It needs to be stored somewhere in the input form, be it...
Right, but dynamic module is a typical way to store stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How does dynamic geographics store it?
That I do not know.
Okay, so this is storing the state of the interactive player if that player was an in-notebook player.
Correct.
Right? If it's not an in-notebook player, you can't store anything. We have no idea what happened.
Correct. And the option would be completely ignored if you set it to some weird thing in that case.
Well, but presumably when you bring up the external player, the external player will also respect the value of this option. Is that a true statement?
I don't think so, because we don't have control over what the system.
Is that obvious? Is that obvious? Is that obvious that the thing with which we call the system can't contain an encoded version of where the initial? I'm sure, like a a standard YouTube video, you can absolutely give a URL.
Yeah,
specifies where in the video to show.
But we do not know what system player the user has installed on the machine.
Okay, fine. So it's hopeless.
We might be able to look at, I don't know, one per platform, the most popular one on each platform.
I mean, I would bet VLC would be very malleable in this case, but in general, I would not be able to make any assumptions.
Okay. I don't think it's going to. I mean, let people use, if our in-notebook player works, that's what people should be using. How is it setting playback setting? How is it storing playback settings?
It will be
an association.
Yeah. And yeah, the ref page should be there.
Okay.
By the way, in answer to geographic, it stores it into georange. So I don't think it's there in the original input form, but there's a dynamic module variable. And then if you...
but if I save the notebook, then I got it, right? But if I export that dynamic geographics, what happens?
Well, I suppose it depends on how you export it, but...
as far as when
I bet
starts...
if you exported an image, it would be just that, or if it's vector graph. I mean,
yeah, okay, fair enough. There's nothing else you could. Oh, okay. I mean, if I save the.
Right. If you save the notebook, it'll be there because it's in a dynamic module variable.
Right. And if I save that output cell, it will. I mean, the expression for that output, it will also be there.
Right.
Okay. Hold on. So. What's happening here is the video player, which is in the output cell, is being changed by having its playback settings changed. Is that correct?
Yes.
It doesn't modify the object. The output cell, right? It is not. If you have a variable, the video stored in a variable v, and you output it, and you modify it, there will be a different instance, because you're changing.
Does it copy down?
It doesn't. There's no duplication of files. It uses the same file, so it is a very efficient.
But in the notebook, does it copy a new? Does it make a new cell when you do that? It doesn't, does it?
No.
It does
I
not.
think what happens,
Okay.
it detaches from the input cell on the top.
Okay, fine. But then that expression has different playback settings.
Correct.
Seems okay. I guess I'm okay with the name. What about for audio? Are we going to do the same thing there?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. If we can do it for one, we can do it for the other ones. But I would be more wary about touching audio for this release, but definitely something that can be done. I mean, once we make sure that we have this wired down, and because this will be a breaking change, right, in the input form of video. So if you get one from the future, it will not work in the past, so to speak. The opposite will not be true. We can take one,
but
from
we
the past
ignore. But
Sorry?
don't we already ignore options we don't recognize?
No, we reject. We fail the video constructor, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what will this do? So you're saying a version 13 video will now fail in version 12?
Yes.
But we didn't have an in-notebook display in version 12 anyway.
Yeah, but also not necessarily. Yes, that is correct.
So is there any artifact which would have worked which would now work and will in the future fail? I mean, which will fail in version 13?
No, everything produced in previous version will be accepted and working in 13.
But there's no way you could take something from 13 and put it in 12 right now. You couldn't do that. There's nothing to do that with. Is that correct?
No, I agree. This is just yes, that is correct.
Okay. Well, so we do have to think for a second about future options. I mean, I don't think we should fail I think what we should do, because we have to future-proof against other options, we should simply say ignoring option blah, blah, blah as a message.
But that is contrary to what, like, most of the, at least in the signal and audio and video code base, if you pass a function, a wrong option to a function, it will fail and return unevaluated.
I don't think it's the right thing for this future-proofing reason.
Right. I mean, graphics ignores unknown options.
Yeah.
Right. If you give it an invalid option, right, a known option, but an invalid setting, then you'll get pinking. But if you give it an unknown option, it will just happily ignore it.
I think you need to think carefully about this, because I think we need to future-proof it. And I think giving a message, but still doing, ignoring it with a message seems like the right compromise.
And I guess this can, all of the functions in our code base at least, produce this unevaluated return an error message from system private arguments. So if it mean just a change in that function, assuming that that is an acceptable thing.
Okay. Comment from RBS on our live stream recommending old school file formats. From what's it? Reading the header of executable data files, dozens of 3D graphics formats that we should support. I thought we had done, other than some ridiculous, 8-bit video game formats, which I just don't think are worth right now the effort to support. I thought we were doing a pretty comprehensive job, or is that not the case? Shadi, can you comment on that?
I don't know about 3D graphics specifically. Really haven't done a full study of what could we support that we don't support.
All right. Well, anyway, that's a suggestion on the live stream.
I think there's some newer ones that we're eager to support. I think for the older ones, they're pretty obscure. I'm not aware of anything that's of significance.
Well, look, for our virtual machines project, we're supporting lots of history. We'll see how that works out. Okay. All right, let's wrap here. We got another live stream coming up in a few minutes here.
Hold on. Okay, so what should we do with Graphics Tour?
I told you it needs its own custom meeting, and we don't have the right people in here.
Okay, fine.
So, I mean, I'm happy to do the meeting, but I'm not going to,
No, that was the question.
So then can I just confirm really quick, were there any other things here that require this to get a part 6?
No.
Okay.
No, cool. We're done. Thank you very much and good work, everybody.
Thank
okay,
you.
on to graphs and geometry and so on.